Ever feel like you're capable of so much more, but something's holding you back?
Oh,
Like a
yeah.
giant's trapped inside just waiting to break free.
Hmm.
Well, get this, Anthony Robbins, the self-help guru,
Yeah.
wrote, Awaken the Giant Within, to help people like you and me tap into that hidden potential and really take control of our lives. It's about ditching those limiting beliefs, rewiring our brains for success, and becoming the best versions of ourselves.
Yeah, it's not just motivational fluff, though.
Right.
Robbins goes deep, giving you actionable strategies, almost like a blueprint for personal growth.
Okay, so let's unpack this. One of the first things that jumped out at me was Robbins' emphasis on decisions.
Uh-huh.
He argues that every decision, no matter how small, shapes our destiny.
Yeah, he uses this really powerful analogy. Our beliefs are like tabletops, needing strong legs for support. Those legs are our experiences.
Right.
So if you've got a belief that I'm bad at math
Right.
because you failed a few tests in school, that belief is going to feel really solid, even if it's not actually true.
And that's where those limiting beliefs come in, right?
Yeah.
Like those wobbly table legs, making us doubt ourselves and holding us back from achieving our goals.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Robbins argues that we can swap out those wobbly legs for stronger ones. We can challenge those limiting beliefs and replace them with empowering ones that actually support our growth.
So it's about consciously creating a belief system that works for us, not against us.
Right, and that's where this fascinating concept of neuroassociative conditioning, or NEC, comes in. It's a 6-step process that Robbins outlines for rewiring our brains and creating lasting change.
Okay, it sounds a bit technical. Is it really that complicated?
Not really. Think of it this way. Our brains are wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. But sometimes we get stuck in patterns where we associate pleasure with things that ultimately harm us, like procrastination or unhealthy habits. And conversely, we might associate pain with things that are actually good for us, like exercise or challenging ourselves.
That makes sense, like hitting the snooze button.
Yeah,
It feels good in the moment, but leads to the pain of being late and stressed.
exactly. So NLC is all about consciously interrupting those patterns and rewiring our brains to associate pleasure with the actions that lead to our long-term goals, even if those actions require some short-term discomfort.
So it's like retraining ourselves to delay gratification and focus on the bigger picture.
Precisely. And the cool thing is, it actually works. Robbins gives tons of examples of people who have used NLC to overcome addictions, phobias, and other deeply ingrained patterns.
That's pretty remarkable. So it's not just about willpower or positive thinking. It's about actually changing the way our brains are wired.
Right. And this rewiring process ties back to that idea of the master system that we talked about earlier, the values, rules, and references that shape our reality.
Can you give me an example of how that plays out in real life?
Sure. Let's say someone values freedom but has a rule that freedom means never asking for help. That creates a conflict because needing help might be necessary to achieve true freedom, like starting a business or pursuing a challenging career path.
So it's like having one foot on the gas and the other on the brake. You're not going to get very far.
Exactly. And this is where Robbins gets really practical. He provides a framework for identifying our core values and then setting up rules that actually support those values, not sabotage them.
So it's about creating a system that works for us, not against us.
Exactly. And one of the key tools for making that happen is transformational vocabulary, which Robbins talks about extensively. He argues that the words we use have a profound impact on our thoughts, emotions, and ultimately our actions.
So instead of saying, I'm stuck,
Yeah.
you could say, I'm exploring new options.
Precisely. It's a subtle shift, but it can make a huge difference in how you feel and how you approach the situation. He also encourages us to pay attention to the metaphors we use because they can be incredibly powerful in shaping our beliefs and perceptions.
Okay, give me an example of a limiting metaphor.
Think about someone who sees life as a battle. This metaphor might make them feel constantly on edge, always fighting for survival. But if they shifted their metaphor to see life as a journey, it might change their whole perspective. They might start to see challenges as opportunities for growth and learning rather than threats to be overcome.
So it's about choosing metaphors that empower us and help us see the world in a more positive light.
Exactly. And Robbins doesn't just focus on our thoughts and beliefs, he also talks about the importance of mastering our emotions.
Oh, that's a big one. Emotions can be so powerful. Sometimes it feels like they control us, not the other way around.
Right, and a lot of people try to suppress or avoid negative emotions. But Robbins argues that's not the answer. He encourages us to see those emotions as signals, not dictators, He calls them action signals.
So instead of saying, I'm angry, we could say, this situation is making me angry and is telling me that something needs to change.
Exactly. It's about taking ownership of our emotions and using them as fuel for positive change.
I'm starting to see a theme here. Taking responsibility for our internal world, our thoughts, our beliefs, our emotions, and understanding how that shapes our external reality.
Absolutely. And Robbins takes it a step further by arguing that our physical health is a crucial foundation for success in all areas of life.
That makes sense. It's hard to feel motivated and energized if you're not taking care of your body.
Exactly. He points out that you can be fit without being healthy. He encourages a focus on aerobic exercise, which he says helps burn fat, increase energy levels, and improve overall well-being.
And he stresses the importance of understanding our own individual metabolism and finding an exercise routine that works for us.
Right, and it's not all about pushing ourselves to the limit. He also talks about the importance of rest and play, giving ourselves time to recharge and have fun.
Yeah, it's like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. And speaking of filling our cups, Robbins challenges us to think bigger than just ourselves. He encourages us to find our magnificent obsession.
So what does he mean by that?
He believes that having a big, inspiring goal that we're passionate about can give us the drive and energy to achieve amazing things. He says it can pull us through challenges, keep us motivated, and help us achieve things we never thought possible.
And it's not just about achieving something for ourselves, right? He also talks about the importance of contribution, of using our talents and resources to make a positive impact on the world around us.
Absolutely. He believes that finding a way to help others can bring a deep sense of meaning and fulfillment to our lives, and it can also inspire us to achieve even greater things than we ever thought possible.
Wow, this is a lot to take in.
Are you ready for more?
Oh, I'm ready. I'm strapped in.
You know, it's interesting how Robbins weaves all these concepts together. He's not just throwing out random self-help tips.
Right.
He's creating a comprehensive system for personal transformation.
I totally agree. And it's not just theoretical. He
Mm.
gives you concrete tools to put these concepts into practice. One that I found particularly intriguing is the 10-day mental challenge.
Ah, yes, that one's intense for 10 straight days. You eliminate negative thoughts and focus exclusively on positive emotions.
Sounds like a tall order. What's the point of that?
It's like a mental cleanse, a way to break those negative thought patterns and rewire your brain for positivity. Robbins argues that it's not about denying negative emotions, it's about choosing to focus on the good stuff.
So instead of dwelling on what's wrong, you're training your mind to look for what's right.
Exactly. And it can have a ripple effect on your whole life. When you're focused on the positive, you're more likely to attract positive experiences.
That makes sense. It's like that saying, what you focus on expands.
Precisely. And speaking of focus, Robbins talks a lot about the power of questions. He argues that the questions we ask ourselves shape our focus, influence our emotions, and ultimately determine the direction of our lives.
So it's not just about finding the right answers. It's about asking the right questions.
Right. Think about it this way. If you wake up in the morning and ask yourself, oh, why do I have to get up? You're setting yourself up for a day of drudgery.
But if you ask, what's amazing about this day? What am I excited to experience? It shifts your whole perspective.
Exactly. It's about consciously choosing questions that empower you and move you toward your goals.
This reminds me of something else Robbins talks about, modeling excellence. He encourages us to learn from people who have already achieved what we aspire to achieve.
Absolutely. It's like having a mentor or a coach, even if you don't have direct access to them. Robbins suggests reading biographies, watching documentaries, and learning as much as we can from people who inspire us.
And not just admiring them from afar, but actually studying their strategies, their mindsets, and their habits.
Right. It's about taking their wisdom and making it our own. Robbins believes that we can accelerate our own growth and success by standing on the shoulders of giants.
That's such a powerful image. Speaking of powerful war, Robbins doesn't shy away from challenging us. He encourages us to develop a personal code of conduct.
That's right. It's about defining our core values and creating a set of rules or principles that we commit to living by no matter what life throws our way.
It sounds like having a compass to guide our actions and help us stay true to ourselves.
Exactly. It provides a sense of purpose, integrity, and inner strength.
This is all starting to come together. Robbins is essentially giving us a blueprint for taking control of our lives, both internally and externally.
I think that's a great way to put it. He's empowering us to become the architects of our own destiny.
And one of the key tools for making that happen is language. Robbins is a big believer in the power of words.
He calls it transformational vocabulary, and it's all about consciously choosing words that empower us and eliminate words that limit us.
So instead of saying, I'm stressed, you could say, I'm feeling a little challenged right now.
It's a subtle shift, but it can make a huge difference in how you perceive the situation. He also talks about the impact of metaphors on our thinking.
Can you give me an example?
Sure, imagine someone who sees life as a battle. This metaphor might make them feel constantly on edge, always fighting for survival. But if they shifted their metaphor to see life as a journey, it might change their whole perspective.
They might start to see challenges as opportunities for growth and learning.
Exactly. And that's what Robbins is all about, helping us see the world in a way that empowers us to create the life we want.
This is a lot to absorb. And it feels like we've barely scratched the surface of what Awaken the Giant Within has to offer.
Yeah.
But before we dive into the final part of this deep dive, I think it's worth pausing for a moment to reflect on what we've learned so far.
I agree. What stands out to you as the most impactful concept so far?
Well, for me, it's that idea of taking radical responsibility for our lives.
Yeah.
Not just blaming our circumstances or other people, but recognizing that we have the power to choose our thoughts,
Yeah.
our beliefs, and our actions.
I completely agree. And it's not about pretending that everything is perfect or ignoring the challenges we face. It's about recognizing that even in the midst of difficult circumstances, we still have the power to choose how we respond.
That's a powerful distinction.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of something else that struck me about the book. Robbins' emphasis on the importance of having a strong sense of purpose.
He calls it finding your magnificent obsession.
Right.
That big, inspiring goal that lights you up and gives you a reason to get out of bed in the morning.
It's that thing that pulls you forward, that gives you the energy and motivation to overcome obstacles and keep going even when things get tough.
Exactly. And he stresses that this magnificent obsession shouldn't be just about achieving something for yourself. It should also involve making a positive impact on the world around you.
That sense of contribution, of using our talents and resources to make a difference, is something that Robbins really emphasizes throughout the book.
And he argues that it's not just about grand gestures or becoming a superhero.
Right.
It's about finding ways to contribute in our everyday lives.
Right.
Through our work, our relationships, and even our interactions with strangers.
Those small acts of kindness, those moments where we choose to lift someone else up or make their day a little bit brighter, can have a ripple effect that we may never fully comprehend.
And it often comes back to us in ways we least expect. When we focus on giving, we often receive more than we ever could have imagined.
It's like that saying, the more you give, the more you get.
Absolutely. And you know, as we wrap up this deep dive into Awaken the Giant Within, one final concept that I think is worth highlighting is Robbins' emphasis on the importance of continuous growth and learning.
He reminds us that personal transformation isn't a destination. It's an ongoing journey.
It's about constantly challenging ourselves, stepping out of our comfort zones, and embracing new experiences that help us expand our horizons and become more fully alive.
He encourages us to be lifelong learners, always seeking out new knowledge, new skills, and new perspectives that enrich our lives and help us make a greater contribution to the world.
It's about becoming the best version of ourselves, not just for our own benefit, but for the benefit of everyone around us.
Well said. I think that's a perfect note to end on. We've covered a lot of ground today exploring the key insights and strategies that Anthony Robbins lays out in Awaken the Giant Within.
And what stands out to me is that this book is not just a collection of abstract ideas, it's a call to action. Robbins is challenging us to take responsibility for our lives, to step into our power and to create a world that is more fulfilling, more meaningful, and more aligned with our deepest values.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
So to our listeners, we encourage you to pick up a copy of Awaken the Giant Within and explore these concepts in more depth. You might just find yourself awakened to possibilities you never knew existed.
And remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. What one small action can you take today, inspired by something you've learned from this deep dive, that could set you on the path to creating the life you truly desire?
We'll leave you with that question to ponder. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Awaken the Giant Within.